Hello, and welcome back to Sports Statistics. Um, our next topic is going to be something called expected value, and we're going to be using this to analyze all sorts of decisions that are made like during the course of actual games. So, where a lot of what we've done has been more almost on like the general manager, team executive side, like analyzing players, analyzing teams, so on and so forth. This is more on the coaching side and analyzing what happens during the game itself. So there were sort of like one article and one video. So the article kind of talked about the idea of expected points and how that works. And it's really short, but it just gives you like a nice rundown of the concept. So I would definitely recommend taking a look at that before you try the lab. And then the second one was the video about the coach who never punts and how he uses some of these tools to devise his team strategy and so on and so forth. All right, so that sort of gives you sort of the background. And then what the lab involves is using this tool to analyze all sorts of situations throughout the course of a football game. So, for example, the first situation says it's 4th and 1, and you're on your opponent's 20-yard line. Should you kick a field goal or go for a first down? The next one is it's 4th and 4, and you're on your own 30-yard line. Should you punt or go for a first down? And then the last one deals with like whether or not you should accept a penalty. So again, all sorts of in-game situations that we're going to analyze using this idea of expected points and expected value. Now, at the heart, expected value is a really simple concept. You can basically just think of it as an average, and we calculate it by taking the probability of an event and multiplying it by the payoff of an event. So when I say payoff in the game of football, we're talking about things like a touchdown, which is worth 6 points, a field goal, which is worth 3 points, and then you have things like safeties, extra points, 2 point conversions. But the payoff is really in terms of points. So let's say you're thinking about kicking a field goal. Well, you might say to yourself, well, a field goal is worth 3 points. Yes, that's true, but you don't always make the field goal, right? There's a chance that you'll miss the field goal and get 0 points. So when we're making our decision about whether or not to kick the field goal, we can't just take the 3 points for granted. We have to factor in the chance that we might miss it. So, for example, a field goal is worth 3 points. If you only have a 50% chance of making that field goal, then the expected value of that decision is only a point and a half. All right, you can't count on the full 3 points because there's a chance you might miss it. So it's basically taking into account the probability that you'll be successful or that you'll not be successful when making a decision and sort of discounting the payoff based on the probability that it will actually happen. All right, so the lab's going to walk you through the whole process, and it'll do it in a step-by-step fashion. So the first one says a field goal from the 20-yard line is roughly a 37-yard attempt. Find the odds of making a 37-yard field goal and multiply it by 3. This represents the positive outcome. All right, so on the top here, you have this chart, and you'll be using this chart for any field goal questions. It basically says the distance and then the probability of making it based on the distance listed. And that's just based on like historical trends in the NFL. So, a 31 yard field goal, you have a 0.947 chance of making it. A 57-yard field goal, you only have a 0.353 chance of making it. So again, all sorts of probabilities there that you're going to use throughout the course of the lab. There's also probabilities for fourth down conversions. So if you're fourth with 1 yard to go, you have about a 0.67 chance or 2 out of 3 chance of converting. If you're fourth down with 5 yards to go, you only have a 0.4 chance of converting. So again, you'll be using these probabilities throughout the lab. I don't think you actually need this one here. And this one is just, it gets used in one of the problems, just the number of yards a team usually gains on a punt. So you'll be using that to kind of go through it. I want to talk about number 2 here because it says if we miss the field goal, not only do we get 0 points, but we give the other team the ball. So when we give the other team the ball, they then have a chance of scoring. So we have to take that into account. And that's where this expected point calculator is going to come into play. All right. And what this expected point calculator does is you put in where you are on the field, what down it is, and how many yards you have to go to a first down. Score differential, Vegas line, quarter, time remaining. Those affect the win probability, which we're not working with. We're just working with expected points. So you can leave those blank or not. It doesn't really matter. But let's pretend that I have 4 yards to go for a first down. It's second down, and I am on, you either have team, which is your own, or the opponent's, which means you're closer to scoring. And I'm on, let's say, my opponent's 35-yard line. All right. If I click get results, it will give me a point value associated with that situation. So it says teams in this situation on average score 3.118 points. All right. And really all this does is it looks historically at all the teams that have been in this situation and sort of what happens. All right. So it's not any sort of fancy calculation. It's just looking at, all right, we have, years and years and years of football games. Let's take a look at what happens when a team is second down, 4 yards to go on their opponent's 35-yard line. And it just looks at what that ends up happening. Sometimes they kick a field goal, sometimes they score a touchdown, sometimes they don't do anything, and it averages out to be about 3 points. And you'll see, as you get closer to the end zone, so let's say I change this to being on the opponent's 1 yard line, you're probably going to score at that point. So the average number of expected points is going to get really close to 6. All right. It says 0 there, so I must have goofed something up. Let's see. 4 yards to go. Oh, because you can't have 4 yards to go and be on the 1 yard line. So let's say 1 yard to go on the opponent's 1 yard line. Second down, it's going to say your expected points is 5.9. All right, touchdown to 6 points because you're in a really high probability position there. On the other hand, if you go to the other extreme, let's say I have 20 yards to go, it's fourth down, and I'm on my own 1 yard line. That's a horrible position. All right. You're backed up against your own end zone. And it says the average number of points is negative 2.49. All right. Because on average, when you're in that position, the other team's actually going to score. All right. So some of the questions will ask you to use this calculator. So I just kind of wanted to show it to you so that you could see how it works. All right. So again, just kind of follow the instructions. It's all laid out pretty clearly. And again, this is just a tool to kind of help make better decisions during the game and not do things just based on sort of gut instinct, but instead, what is the highest probability decision, right? What on average is going to work out the best for your team, which again was sort of the premise behind that video about the coach that never punted. All right. So I hope this was helpful, and best of luck on the lab.